Hello, this is Chris Hoffman from BananaPanic.com, and I'm making this video to try and explain a concept that I have for a comic book application for the Android devices that are going to be coming out and are out right now. I'm having a little bit of trouble explaining this concept to people over email, so I thought I'd make this video to make it a little bit more clear to people. So basically the idea is I have an application for my comic book, Banana Panic, that runs on the iPhone. And what I'd like to do is to make something similar for the Android so that independent comic book makers can get into publishing their comic books on electronic devices. The new tablets that are coming out seem perfect for this. And I also want to create a version of the engine that will be able to take advantage of the fact that the medium is on an electronic device, not just treating it like electronic paper and shoveling comic books onto it, although that's a great first step. What my idea is, on my iPhone application, so if this is a Motorola Droid or one of the tablets that are going to be coming out, basically the comic book, the way Banana Panic works is the comic book comes up panel by panel. So when you have the first panel of the comic, the user is able to swipe, or there's arrows that come up on the side that you can tap, and then it will go panel by panel through the story or back. You can fast forward all the way to the end of the comic or bring it back. So it's basically a slideshow. What I imagine this would look like on the Android is there would be some sort of repository for the images that are all set up in the correct dimensions for whatever device that you're working with. And then the engine would actually start at the beginning and show the first picture, then show the next one, then show the next one, so that it would be a lot easier. So if a person does a series of comics where there's 100 panels in there, or an independent comic book maker has a simple one that only has 10, it doesn't matter, because all of these will just be coming up as they're in the directory. So, and then on the iPhone application, I'm hoping to do this again on the Android application, is to have, once the comic book is done, have a create your own panel option where you will get a menu that you can click on that will ask you which background you want to use, which characters you want to bring in, and have, when you click on those menus, it will give you options of a background. So the background will come up sort of like a background of a city here or something to that effect. And then the characters would come in. They're basically just either transparent GIFs or transparent PNGs that you can drag into the scene and then pinch and drag so that they can be made bigger or smaller, so you can create an exciting fight scene. And then send that. What I'd like to see is, so you could post that on your Facebook page, or you could put it out over Twitter, or you could email it to a friend, so that if you're really proud of the one that you made. And so that would be the first version of it. That would be version 1 of the engine. What I'd like to do in version 2 is, if you're here on your Droid device, and all the same things, you go panel by panel until you get to a panel that gives you a branch in the storyline. If you can think about this, if you've ever played the video game Mass Effect or Mass Effect 2, there's points you get into the story where you make decisions that change the outcome of the story, and I want to do something similar to that. So basically you'd be going through a storyline with 2 characters, and let's say you had a character that was more of a good guy, and you had a storyline with a character who was, these are wings by the way, and you have a storyline where it's a bad guy or more evil guy. Let's say there's a guy that does a little bit more ends justify the means type of guy, and they come up against some sort of obstacle where there's like a giant bee or something like that they have to fight. And the giant bee comes in here. So they would probably have different approaches about how to handle this terrible menace of this giant, poorly drawn bee that's come up to destroy society. So you would get to this decision panel, and then a menu could come in from the side or something to that effect, where it just shows the bad guy, and then a menu can come in from the side, and it'll say, who do you want to have move on with this situation, or so then you'd have the options of the two different characters. You'd have the more saintly character and the more evil character. So you could grab one of them, bring him into the panel with all of the different stuff. So if you had options of weapons and options of sound effects, and so you can make your own panel of how this looks when he fights the evil villain here. But then the rest of the story would know that you picked him to come in and fight. So if he's not well equipped to fight against it and he dies, then he's dead for the rest of the story, and that would change how the story turns out. Or if he's is the right one to fight against the giant killer bee, then the rest of the story moves on from that point of view. And this is a pretty simple sort of Pokemon fighting way, choose your own adventure type thing. But this could be used for all sorts of different story elements of does the guy who is just cheated on his wife decide to go home? Is he honest about what he just did? There's a lot of ways that we could use this. This is just one use study here. So from here, the algorithm or the engine itself would know which character you picked to move on in the story. And then the artist would just have to think, the artist, creator, and the writer would have to think of the different arcing storylines that would come out to the different decisions and how different things end up. So if the good character dies, what happens? Does the villain win and then take over the world? Great. And if does the good guy win and spread peace across the land? Perfect. So what I've been hearing from a lot of people saying, well, it's going to be like drawing 3 comic books, and it might be, depending on how divergent the ideas are. If the ideas are not that different, then the engine, as it knows that as you swipe to the next panel, it could put in the background, and then whichever character you chose could show up here as a transparent ping or GIF, just like it did in the ones that you made by yourself, so that it would continue on the story saying, here's, oh my god, it's that poorly drawn bee again. And they fight. But this one, if you pick the good character, that's who it shows up here in this space. If it's the bad character, then that's the one who shows up in this space with their text. So this part just overlays on top, so you'd have like layers on the screen that the engine is putting together for you. So here's the character that you chose with a blank background, and then here's the villain, and here's the actual background. So if it is a hugely divergent story, then yes, you'll be drawing the panels for the first part of the story that are all the same, and then the panels that move on from that from whatever changed in there. So, but that work, I think, is worth it because it gives the people who read through the storyline will start the comic book over and then start reading through again to find out the other endings. So that's the idea. I hope that makes sense. If you're interested, I'd love to talk to anybody who'd be interested in talking about this. You can contact me via bananapanic.com. And thanks for watching.